Welcome, Jason, to Raw and Cooked Vegan. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Jason, what I usually do when I start these is simply ask you, how were you raised? Did your parents know much about diet, nutrition? Was it kind of like standard American diet? What was it like when you were growing up?
Okay, I was raised on a farm. So, vegetables and stuff, where you walk out your back door. I mean, we had everything from sweet potatoes, cantaloupe, watermelon,
Oh, man.
beans, whatever. But as I got older, actually, I figured out that my dad was doing a lot of spraying on them, like pesticides and stuff. So,
Okay.
I don't know,
Probably like most farmers, yeah.
Right. So I don't know. It wasn't an organic farm by any stretch of the imagination. So who knows what kind of chemicals I was getting. But that's how I was raised. My mom actually, I left when I was 12, the farm, and I left. So I moved to the city, and we ate a lot of fried chicken, fried fish, and fried, And my mom actually, to this day, she's a lot. If people call me a health nut, she is a health nut. She counts the number of almonds she eats. Like, she measures out her portions. She's
Wow.
just on top of it. So I learned a lot from her, and I teach her stuff. But long story short about that is that she said she wishes she would have known all of this stuff she knows now and would have fed us differently, and not all of this roast beef and fried chicken and all of that kind of stuff. So
did her cooking style change when she moved from the farm to the city?
I wouldn't say it did. It's like we were eating the same fried chicken and fried fish in the country, but we just, as far as, I think we probably had more fresh vegetables and stuff right outside in the backyard then. But then to the city, it was more probably canned beans and green beans and things like that, along with this fried chicken. And we had macaroni and cheeses and stuff like that. So
Right.
It wasn't a huge shift in the diet except just the freshness.
Okay. And how would you characterize your health on the farm and then in the city? Would you say you were like average kid? Did you get a cold once a year? Any problems?
Yeah, I was an average kid. I get the flu maybe every so often, get the cold every now and then. I've never been a sickly child. I actually went through my entire school year without missing school. That's what I was noted for when scored for when I graduated high school. Perfect attendance all the way through or whatever. So
For all 4 years of high school, you never missed a day.
right, exactly.
Man, all right.
That's the proudest thing I took away from high school. So yeah, I was never a sickly child. And no one in my family really was.
Well, and I, when I've met you, you were pretty athletic, but I get the sense you've always been a pretty sports going kind of dude. Did you have to work on the farm, and did you guys play sports at a young age?
First of all, on the farm, I've worked in the fields, like in the cotton fields, like hoeing the field.
Wow.
The grass out. So on going up and down these hot fields. It was brutal, but I learned to work. Got a lot of calluses on these hands.
Yeah.
And I was a really hard worker. So when I moved to the city, like anytime somebody would say, "This is hard, this is tough," I'm like, "Really? What do you?" I think it raised me and turned me into a different type of person on what hard work truly is.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so you, how old were you when you moved from the farm to the city?
I was 12 years old when I left the farm.
Okay. So then you're living in the city, and then, and I know you, like, when did you start lifting weights and getting into that?
That would be college, so at 18.
Okay.
That's what I recall. I don't recall doing it in high school, at all that I can remember.
Okay.
As far as basketball and things like that, I played just pickup games. I never really officially, in middle school, I was a part of a team, but that was short-lived. But I played basketball a lot. In college, I played 3-on-3 tournaments and those sorts of things. But I never officially joined a team and played for a school. My mom was a teacher, and my dad was a farmer. So they didn't push sports. Like, my mom pushed education, and my dad didn't care. He was like, I'm a farmer. He didn't think about sports. Yeah, so.
What did your mom teach?
She taught I think it's third grade or first grade. I always forget one of those two. Her whole life, that's what she taught.
All right. So you go into college, and now what's it like? Now, when you went away to college, you were kind of free from family. Did that affect your diet at all, or did you kind of eat the same way your mom has fed you?
Woo! Woo, boy, how I survived and got through college without getting the freshman 15 I hear people always talking about or whatever, I have no clue because I don't. Let me back up for a quick second about my home life. I remember my mom always say sit at the table until you finish your vegetables.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't remember there was not a lot of discussion about health or don't eat too much of this. It's bad when you eat this. I remember cookie was kind of a special thing when you get a cookie. Like that was like special. But we used to eat ice cream like several times a week after our meal as a dessert and stuff like that. So I didn't really have the way my kids are now. They're getting educated. I taught my kid about antioxidants today, and she understood it. And she said, "Oh, so the way when you cut open apples and they start turning brown, that's called." I said, "Yes, that's how you got it." So, I didn't have any of that. So now forwarding on to college, I weighed like 170 or something like that, 6'4", about 170 or something like that. So I was as skinny as a rail. I went into school. My roommate and I, we still talk about this today. He's still one of my best friends. We used to go to a place called Pizza Classic and order an extra large pizza for $5. He would sit on his bed. He would get his pizza. I would get my pizza. He would sit on his bed in the dorm room. I would sit on my bed. And I would eat my whole entire pizza all in one setting. He would sit there and eat his entire pizza all in one setting. Pepperoni pizza, cheese, and pepperoni. That's all it was. So I used to go to McDonald's, get two, I did do McDonald's too, but most of the time Burger King, 2 Whoppers.
Wow.
I didn't get fries. And for some reason, something in my head always said, stay away from soda. I love soda, but I've never been a soda drinker. I had it a few times out on the farm. We called it Coke. Everything was Coke. I don't care what the brand, Pepsi, whatever.
Yeah.
So when I went out to college and stuff, I have no idea why. I think about this all the time. But I never, I would never order a meal like a not kids meal, but a number 5 or whatever off the menu that comes with a soda and fries, whatever. I just went with the burgers. And I didn't order anything else. So I never did soda. Did
you drink water? You get a glass of water?
I used to drink a lot of water. I did drink water, and for some reason, something told me drink a lot of water. I don't remember why. Maybe it was something in my upbringing about water, but I drank a lot of water. But I ate poorly, and I'll stop there I can tell you how I graduated, by the time I graduated from high school, college, how I was eating, if you want to know.
Well, what I would love to know is, with all this fast food and, perhaps not as many vegetables and maybe irregular schedule with studying and school and all that, it sounds like you were still pretty athletic. Did you notice any change in your health because your diet probably wasn't as good as what your mom had been feeding you?
I didn't. I don't recall anything different about my health. And by the way, I was working out. I was going and when I work out, I only did weights. I never did cardio. So I would pump iron, and I've never really been now for cardio. I simply go for long walks and things like that. But I've never been a treadmill type of person or whatever, but it's always been bodybuilding. And no matter what, I could not get past that 170. I don't care how I was eating, that poor eating or anything. I could not get past that 170. So I started, and I don't want to go into this. I can talk about it later if you bring it up. But creatine, you familiar with that? I took creatine, and I got up to around 195, 200 from doing that, and then I plateaued, and I couldn't get any bigger. So when I stopped taking that, I dropped down to maybe like 190, and I've stayed at 190 since college. And I graduated in college. I'm 41 now. Graduated college at 22. So I've maintained the same weight. I still wear the same pants and all of that since college. So
that's awesome. Now, in addition to the creatine, did you get into taking protein?
Just the creatine. Never. I never took protein drinks and ate protein bars or anything like that at all.
That's interesting. It sounds like, I remember I used to work in a gym. I worked in before I taught yoga. I worked at LA Fitness, just working at the front desk.
Okay.
And I remember the dude started taking creatine. Creatine came on really big. And, protein powders, there'd always been protein powders, whey powders and stuff. and then creatine came on. Did you notice, like, as soon as you started taking that stuff, that it gave you more energy, or did you just start adding weight? Did you feel stronger? What was the effect?
What I remember, I could just look in the mirror and notice a change in my appearance. I've never been a person that feels like I've been sluggish too much or anything like coming up, like college and stuff. I don't recall that, so I don't remember thinking, wow, I have more energy now. But I felt like I was always pretty energetic during college and stuff. Just from maybe the weightlifting and all that helped with the energy, and I was always ready to go to the gym. I mean, I would go 6 days a week. So legs one day and upper body one day, and those sorts of things. So I was always in the gym, and that alone might have kept me giving me the energy I need. I don't know I don't know.
And while you were when you get into weightlifting like you were, you often have so much interest that you're studying all kinds of methods of weightlifting, different kinds of how to do sets, different approaches. And I imagine you came across dietary recommendations as well. Did you after college, did you start to get more interested in diet? Because you're kind of saying college, you really weren't that careful about it.
Right.
When did you start to think more about vegetables, salads? Because I know when I met you, you were pretty clean, man. You were eating like baked chicken, maybe. Stuff was pretty simple. But I think you ate lots of fruits and vegetables too, right?
Right. Well, towards the end of when I graduated from college, and this is a crazy story when I look back on it. I used to, I got a notification pop up here. But back in college, I used, before I graduated, I used to eat baked chicken and broccoli. I think it was frozen broccoli every single day. That was my dinner every single, and I thought, I don't know why, something in my head back then was like, I'm being a health nut. I'm ahead of everybody else because I'm not eating fried chicken. I'm not eating all of these carbs. I'm not eating potatoes and all this white rice and all that kind of stuff. So I felt that I was doing something different back then. And I don't know what. And I wish I knew what turned me into thinking about food and health and stuff. I don't remember. I honestly don't know where it came from. But as we talk later, I'll tell you how I flipped the switch and just turned into a researcher and looking it up and paying attention to my food and stuff. I'll tell you that later. But,
well, but it's interesting you say that because I know from where you stand now, you're thinking that you weren't doing as healthy as you could. Right. But I would say that is a lot healthier than a lot of people.
But I have learned that it's not what I was eating; it was what I wasn't eating. I mean, I had no variety whatsoever.
Huh.
So I was missing so many things. So it wasn't what I was eating; it was what I wasn't eating.
That's interesting. Very interesting. All right. So I guess how long did you go in that kind of frame of mind from after you graduated from college until you started incorporating more things into your diet?
I would say I graduated in 97, so I would say up until 2002 or so, I still ate like that. When I mean like that, I mean for lunch would be peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
With some Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
And for dinner would be the chicken, and I cook a whole batch of chicken, like chicken leg quarters, which is a lot of meat. Now I look at it, I couldn't eat that kind of meat but anyway, and broccoli every single day. And this is when I was single and just whatever. And I would just heat up that piece of chicken, heat up that broccoli, and that was my dinner. For breakfast, I'm trying to remember. I've never been really a cold cereal person. Actually, Raisin Bran. I used to eat Raisin Bran with a little bit of regular cow's milk, which I've never liked cow's milk unless it's actually in cereal back then. So other than that, I never drank a glass of milk in my life. It's always been just totally disgusting. But that's another story. So that was my life up until maybe 2002 or so.
Okay. And since you've been lifting for so long, let me just ask you, have you noticed, like have you ever heard this term, genetic potential? Like dudes will lift weights to a certain point, and then it's kind of like you can't really lift any more weight. Your body's maxed out to where it is. I mean, you've been lifting a long time. Do you still make a lot of progression, or is it kind of like you're doing maintenance now?
I'm simply maintaining. There's a shift in the mind when you have single life and then you have married life.
Dude.
It's no way I become more lazy or anything. It changed. The focus has changed. The best example I can give is a car. When you're single, your car is pristine and clean and waxed and the inside is spotless and all of that. But then when you have a family and you're married, it's like, I don't care about the appearance anymore. I just need this thing to get me to point A to point B. So that's the same with my body. I care about my body because I want my mate to still, look at me and say, hey, that's the guy, that's the same person I married.
Yeah.
I'm really doing it for me because that's where it starts. I do it for me first and then for her and then so I can be around for my kid. But I don't go in and every so often I increase my weight but I don't do it that often. I maintain. I try to change up my workouts, my exercises, so that I don't do the same thing all the time. But in no way am I I've lost weight because, as I mentioned to you, I got up to 200 at one point during college, and that was the biggest I've ever been. Everything was just really muscular. And actually, when you met me, that was still probably at one of my biggest stages. And now my wife tells me, your arms are way too big. I didn't like that anyway. She didn't notice she didn't like it until they weren't so big anymore. And she's, I like that better. So.
All right.
So I'm now, I think, at the way my body naturally is designed to be, and I just to cut, whatever you want to call it, the definition is all I try to keep, and that's it.
Cool. All right. Now, one of the things I'm interested in, I want to get to your kind of transition to vegan, but I'd like you to tell us a little bit about, up until you started thinking about vegan, how did you perceive vegans or even vegetarians? Did you think, these are nutty folks, or did you think, that's cool, that's their thing, I'm just not interested? What was your mental view of it?
I would have to say, I don't know when the first time I heard the word vegan, but vegan wasn't a regular thing in my vocabulary until maybe, I'd say 3-4 years ago to hear the term.
Yeah.
But before that, it was always vegetarian. That's the only word I really ever heard. Vegan, I probably heard it, but didn't know what I was hearing. Didn't register to me. I didn't know, vegan, what's vegan? Okay. But when I heard vegetarian, I simply thought of a person that just didn't eat meat. That's the first thing that kind of that person doesn't eat meat. And I never gave it any further thought. Oh, you don't eat meat. Okay. And I found out later that people do it for different reasons. It's because of caring for the animal.
Right.
That's sole reason. It has nothing to do with health. It's all about the animal. And then some people it's because of course, health or both.
Yeah. Okay.
When I heard vegans, and now that I know what a vegan is or whatever, my first thought is somebody that's out there, that's different, because that's the way society seems to put it. Like they're tree hugging individuals.
Right.
Which we definitely are. I mean, I went to, where were we at recently? In Louisiana, and we had a little small gathering. We bought bottled water, and I asked my family. Some of my family was down there. Are you going back home? You got plenty of room in your car. Can you take these bottles and recycle them? And they were like, I don't recycle. Like, okay, well, we're taking them all the way back to Georgia, and we're going to recycle them. So we're that type. We recycle. We try to watch the amount of water we use, and we try to take care of this planet and don't put any. We don't use harsh chemicals and products on our lawn and those sorts of things. We try to keep everything as natural as possible. We make it at home out of natural ingredients ourselves.
Beautiful, man.
That's the type of people we are. But.
That's awesome. All right. So what happened that started you thinking for yourself, hey, maybe I'll try, and let me ask you, did you go from eating meat to vegetarian, or did you go straight to vegan? And what instigated this shift?
Okay, let me tell you how it all played out. I would say around 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. And I meant to look up the date before we spoke today to see, so I can give you the accurate date, but I don't remember. Not that it matters that much, but
yeah.
Let's just say 2004.
Okay.
I went to the doctor. That's one thing my mom drilled in my head. Go to the doctor once a year. I always have. I've never missed a year.
Okay.
Been little. So I go to the doctor, and I never thought about my blood pressure. Never took a glance on what is blood pressure. Who cares? That's not my problem. I've never had blood pressure. My family didn't have it. I didn't know anybody in my immediate family that had to deal with it or anything. So I go to the doctor, and my blood pressure is like 140 over something. And the doctor said, anybody in your family with high blood pressure? And I said, no, not that I know of. I don't really know anybody that has high blood pressure in my family. I think maybe my grandmother or something. I'm not sure. And he said, well, it's something like you want to take a look at your blood pressure is a little elevated. I said, oh, okay. So, he said, let's follow up. I think he said, let's follow up in like 3 weeks or a month or something. So I go back, he checks it again, and he said, it's still kind of elevated. And he said, you're telling me, you told me how you eat, and which I did. I told him about the peanut butter and jelly, so my timeline might be off when I said when I stopped eating that, because that still probably was around the time, maybe 2003, 2004. Yep. I'm still eating the chicken and broccoli and all of that. And he said, and you telling me it's not in your family that you know about. So I think what we need to do is put you on some medication. Ignorant about medications, about the harmful effects of medication. I said, okay, sure. He puts me on lisinopril. I'll never forget the name of that medicine. Lisinopril. He gives me enough for like a month or something. So I start taking this stuff totally ignorant. Just, let me pop it. He didn't tell me try to add this to your diet, try to take this out of your diet, anything. I told him how I was eating. I laid out my entire diet for him, and he never told me anything. So I after 3 weeks or so of taking this, my legs, I felt like tingling in my lower legs.
Whoa!
What's up with this? And I Googled it, and I found a website, which I'm not trying to promote this website, but I've given this website out to everybody that tells me when they're taking some type of medication. But it's called medications.com, or is it medication.com? I don't remember. I think it's medications with an S.com. I went there, and what it is you type it. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you have A through Z of medications. You click on L. I clicked on L. Took me to lisinopril.
Yep.
And you just simply read testimonials about it. That's all it is. Of people saying, I take it, this is how it makes me feel. I take it, this is how it makes me feel. I take it. And I saw so many people saying, yeah, my legs are getting a little numb or whatever. So I immediately go back to the doctor, and tell him about what's going on. He sends me to a neuro doctor, and they said, oh, you have I don't know, it's something to do with nerve issues in your leg. And I know good and well, I know it was the medication. I don't remember if he ever admitted that. But then at the same time of this happening, someone gave me a book, and I meant to have that book here. Everybody probably knows this book. That's a health nut. Natural cures they don't want you to know about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who I think is in a little trouble right now. I think he's. But that book.
There's good stuff in there. There's good stuff in there. Yeah, I think he's taken advantage of something that was happening anyway, and he kind of jumped on the train. But yeah.
And I think based on his coworker I have, who's a really big up on it, she taught me so much too about health. She cured her own fibroid. She refused to go on any type of getting surgery or whatever. She cured it all herself and fixed it with eating. But when I told her about this book, she said, "Oh, I read the same type of book when I was your age." She's probably about 15 years older than me, or so, 20 years old. And she said, he regurgitated all of the stuff that was there and just made it in more of a dumbed it down a little bit for this era."
Yeah, exactly.
I read that book in its entirety on a plane trip to, I think it was Texas, and back. I read the entire book, and I'm like, "Oh, are you serious? The drug people do this, and the drug people, it's all about the money, and FDA is not really, don't seem to have our interest at heart, and these preservatives in these canned products that are sitting on the shelf, soaking in, that I grew up on, eating green beans in the city, and my eye just opened, everything open.
Yeah.
I took that medicine out. I said, that is the end of that medicine. You will never catch me taking another drug in my life, okay? And I immediately shifted to just looking up things that helped with blood pressure. And one of the first things I looked at it talked about celery, the power effects of celery on blood pressure. I had no idea, but I hate just eating celery, so I just started blending up little celery and drinking it and monitoring my own blood pressure at home. And then within a week or so, it seemed to start dropping just from adding celery to my diet. So that's what started me down the path, because that helped scare, if you want to call it. And I wasn't really scared or concerned. I just was like, oh, I got high blood pressure. Okay, something I'll deal with. I didn't take it serious, as I definitely should have back then. But
tell me before you go on, before I forget to ask you, how do you make this celery drink? Is it just celery and water?
Celery and water. Put a little bit of water in the celery, boom, and that's it. That's it.
Nice. All right. So you start drinking this, and you said you felt like your blood pressure was going down. Did you get it tested again?
No, I know it went down. I was testing it myself. I didn't feel no different in my body. I was testing it at home.
Okay.
With my own, the same one I use to this today, the one I bought back then, I use it, and I still check my blood pressure all the time.
All right.
And of course, as you probably could expect, it's under control. But I can talk more about that over the years of how it still wasn't. I thought it was where it should be, but it never was until veganism, if you want. But
that's fascinating. Now, do you keep a record of that blood pressure, or do you kind of know in your head what it should be and you kind of watch for that?
Right. I track it. Back then, it was just keeping it in my head. So when I go to the doctor, he would ask me, so what are your pressures running at home? And what's funny is for the last several years, I'm thinking this is good, but 130, 30 something, always in the 130s over like maybe 70 something or 80. And I thought that was good until last couple of years or so, I looked and said, wait a minute, that's not even where I should be. But again, I can talk, that's the progression from cutting out certain things, adding certain things, still confused about all this organic stuff, so I'm still eating organically out of a box or can or whatever, and it's still not getting me. So, but I don't want to ramble on about that until
Well, Jason, I'm glad you say that, because I think this is common for so many people. There's a long journey where you're learning stuff over years, and you don't just get here overnight. It's like a lot of different things happen, and finally you and even now there's going to be things we'll keep learning. So, but anyway, it's fascinating. So you started drinking the celery water that you would make, and then what are some of did you start adding like more fruits and vegetables back into your diet? And did you change anything about the chicken, or did you keep eating chicken and broccoli, or what's up with that?
See, I had no idea that the chicken would have any sort of effect on blood pressure. I'm not thinking, that's chicken. That's the safe one. Beef, I've never been a big beef or pork eater. I failed to mention that, but back on the farm and even in the city, we ate pork every now, like ham on Thanksgiving and stuff, but that was about it. And then we would eat beef, ground, what is it called? I forgot what it's called now. But different types of beef all the time. But for some reason, who knows? They probably flip it on CNN and seeing something that comes out saying that that beef is bad for you or causes cancer. That's what I used to hear about beef. So I just cut out beef years and years ago. So it was always chicken or fish or turkey. That's the only type of animal product that I would eat.
All right, and did you eat? Were you big on dairy products like cheese and milk, or did you care?
I loved cheese, but at some point, I learned how bad cow, like cheese and products and those things, and how much salt. I know when I got that scare for the blood pressure, I started looking at the sodium levels on salt. That's when a slice of bread. God, how much salt in one piece of bread and one slice of cheese and a hot dog, whatever kind of hot dog it is. I don't care if it's a vegan hot dog. They are loaded with sodium. I started paying attention to sodium levels and things. So, like, back to the chicken. Chicken doesn't have a lot of sodium, so I was, not worried or thinking. But as far as adding stuff, I've always been a person that walks and just picks up an apple and go eat it, or go get a banana and eat it as a snack or something, and then along with maybe some crackers or something like that too. Back in the day.
All right. So you started doing some things on your own, and you threw away the medication. You brought your blood pressure down to a normal, well, let's say a healthy range for an average physician.
Right.
And then, but you were still eating meat at that time. So when was it? What happened that had made you decide to stop eating meat? What occurred?
It hasn't been a long time. I'd say it's been a year and a half, maybe, if that may be pushing it. But I watched Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
And I don't know who told me to watch it or why I watched it. But when I watched that movie and saw what the animal protein does to the body, and it's like behind almost everything that goes on wrong in our bodies is animal protein. Had no clue of that before. And when I saw that, and I'm a person that I have to hear something twice, maybe. Like if I hear it one time, it's like, and I have to see it at another source. And I probably had seen it or heard it, but when I saw it on this movie, I was like, okay, all right, I have to make a shift. So even then, it wasn't a just stop cutting it out completely. And right before, let me just say this too. I don't know what got into me. I had already started lowering the animal products anyway, before even seeing this movie. I shifted from going, and that's what I mentioned to you previously, that I documented how the stages you go through to get to this level. And one of the stages was just lowering the meat intake, like just cutting it back to, instead of 7 days out of the week. Let me back up. Instead of 3 times a day, like a lot of people do, bacon, some type of sandwich with meat on it at lunch, and then something, salmon or chicken or something for dinner, whatever. I cut back to once a day at some point 5-6 years ago. I don't know what made me do it. I do remember one thing. My brother told me that he ran into a guy on an airplane and the guy gave him a card and told him, he said, call me, I can help you out with getting your health checked out or whatever. But he said, just remember, death starts in the colon. I just remember that always stuck with me. Your that's where it all starts, is right in the colon. And I knew about, I guess, how meat can go in you and rot in you. And that book, who knows how much that Natural Cures book talked about meat in that book? I don't remember. I just remember more it was a focus on the FDA and those sorts of things, and staying away from drugs. And I don't remember how much it talked about what you should eat and not eat and all that kind of. I don't remember. So maybe something in there changed me too. But I stopped eating meat more than once a day, and then a year later or so, I cut it down to just, instead of 7 days of the week, maybe only 5 days out of the week, and then it went down to 3 days out of the week, and then it just gradually started getting lower and lower. And that's how it ended up being. I really like that, Jason, because it's a very grounded, practical transition. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen, as you studied this, a lot of folks, they try to do it cold turkey, right. And that's like a big change, man. And like people, they'll be so strict about it for like 6 months or a year, but they've been so strict they end up going back altogether because it's hard for them to assimilate such a drastic change. So I love how you've done it. You kind of started doing it on your own, then you read more things that convinced you, and you eventually just totally got it out. Let me ask you, as this process occurred, and maybe these changes were not so pronounced because you did it so gradually, but did you notice any health benefits as you eliminated the animal products? Is your health pretty much the same? Do you feel better? Do you feel lighter? Is your weightlifting the same? What are any changes you've noticed since you've gotten the animal products out of the diet? I don't think about it because just sitting here thinking, there's been so much going on in the last several years with having children and stuff. So there's times when I'm sluggish and sleepy and all that. I don't know if it's because I got woken up 2 times at night last night. So that's been going on a long time. So it's hard for me to say, like, link it to reduction in meat and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
All I can say is every time I go to the doctor, I get thumbs up, like, for doing a good job. I'm told that it's pretty rare on what I'm doing and how I'm eating and keep it up type of thing. So and that's my, I guess, I think by the time I'm 41, so I could easily have high cholesterol right now and those sorts of things. So the fact that I don't have those things, I think that's what's the best that's come out of this. I don't know, like I said, when I pretty much stopped the meat consumption, I didn't notice a dramatic, change in different. I noticed maybe in digestion, like as far as when I go to the restroom, it's different or changed. Oh, I know one big thing that's changed, a huge thing that's changed, and it was in the book. I just remembered, and I always go back to Natural Cures book, remembering, oh wow, he said that in the book, which is one of the first things from what I remember in the book. He said, if we were to eat correctly, we wouldn't have bad breath, we wouldn't have body odor, women wouldn't have bad menstrual cycles. It just went on. We wouldn't have headaches. We think when somebody asks you, I have a headache every day, and you say, are you? And they don't think that's sick, but they don't realize they are sick for walking. They don't have the flu or the cold, so I'm not sick. So I stopped. Anytime over the years, when I decided, let's say I'm going to go without any meat for a whole week, and I can walk around without no deodorant, but when I would eat a piece of chicken, I don't care what kind of product it is, salmon or whatever, I would need deodorant. I would start smelling it coming out of my. So that's the biggest change. If I had to pick something that I noticed about myself.
Yeah, I love that one, Jason. That's a huge one. And can you imagine the millions of dollars people spend on, like, antiperspirant, stuff like that?
Yeah.
And if you're clean, you don't need it. It's crazy.
Right.
Crazy. All right. So let me ask you. You kind of alluded to this earlier, and let me just ask you personally.
Mm-hmm.
As you went on this journey, what did you think about the ethical aspects of all this? Like, you grew up on a farm. You probably saw people. I don't know if you saw killing chickens, but so when you see it that young, it kind of seems normal. But after seeing some of the stuff you've seen on the internet, what do you think about the ethics with killing animals and all that?
I think I'm saddened in a way, but it's not at a level where that's the reason why I won't eat chicken or I won't eat any type of animal product. That's not the reason for me.
Yeah.
Because I always have to go back to, I think about like other cultures that's what they need to survive. They need to, whatever. And that, what is that thing? Is it Carpe Diem or whatever that thing about the strong survive thing? Whatever, I forgot who that is. I forgot where that came from. Only the strong survive type of thing. Like so we need these animals to survive, that type of thing. I kind of go back to, some people still have that belief system and they think, oh, the cavemen ate a lot of meat, and which is not true. I think that was a rare thing to get their hands on some meat. But so I feel sad when I've seen videos, I've seen what they do to the chickens, and it's brutal. It's a tough thing for me. That's all I can say. It's tough, but that's not my number one reason. My number one reason is my personal health is why I would stop. And I sympathize for anybody that, that they are just these PETA people and stuff. I feel where they're coming from.
Cool. Cool. I got you. And you did say earlier, the environment is a concern of yours and you're careful with recycling. I'm sure that in your studies you've come across some of the effects of raising animals in terms of polluting the environment.
Yes.
So is that a motivating factor for you?
That definitely is too. And that's one for my wife. She's one of the world may not be around here too much longer anyway. So I'm going to eat what I want to eat, but she doesn't eat poorly. Trust me. She's taught me a lot of the things of the way I eat. She's gone down this path with me, and done a lot of the research with me. But the main reason she would like to cut back is, one of the main reasons is for the earth, how much damage it does to the earth to raising cattle and doing all of this stuff that's hurting the planet. So.
All right. All right. Let me shift back to the health thing and ask you, in your studies and in your personal experience, have you decided to supplement with anything? And we talked a little bit about B12 the other day, so it sounds like you've decided to supplement with B12, and we can get into that. Are there any other supplements that you think are necessary for folks?
Okay. I used to be a big GNC person. I used to be at the GNC a lot. Hold on, I got a little pop-up in my face here. Hold on a second. There we go. I used to be in GNC a lot. And I probably recently in the last few years threw those supplements away. But based on my research, and I'm not a person that just trusts the first thing I read. I have to see it in multiple, like I mentioned before, I have to see it more than one place. I don't believe in supplements for the most part because I've learned over the years that most of them are pretty fake or it's just a market. In my opinion, it's like a huge market for supplements, and a lot of it is just going out when you go to the restroom. It's a lot of it is wasted.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some stuff about, I don't know if it's vitamin D, how this one company just takes it from coal, and that's the vitamin D. I mean, I've heard so many different things. I'm even thinking people like a Dr. Oz had an episode on about the percentage of supplements that are truly real. So at some point, I used to just pop all sorts of them, like vitamin E and C and whatever, and then they come out and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be taking E." So I ended up throwing all this. I've wasted so much money on supplements, but over the years, I have purchased like the whole food supplements.
Yeah,
derived from food. I forgot the company name. I won't say the name, but and I've taken those in the past. But then I just got to a point that I said, food is my medicine and my supplement, and I do not need this. So I cut them completely out until recently when I saw, and I had seen more than once about the B12 and how vegans should be concerned about B12. And while I'm on that point of saying vegans, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Is plant-based diet, does that like fall under the vegan?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some people will take very different positions on that. Okay. So some vegans who are vegans strictly for ethical reasons, mm-hmm. They can sometimes be so exclusively focused on that issue that they don't tolerate any other reasons for being so. And plant-based, I'll tell you why I think this term plant-based arose. Mm-hmm. Veganism, I forget the guy who coined the term. I think he was a British dude. And I think it came into usage in like the 1950s, 1960s.
Oh, that was...
And the guy, basically vegans in the popular consciousness have been kind of considered waxed out, crazy, hippie, So when the medical profession started recognizing, hey, there's something healthy about eating plants, mm-hmm. I think what they wanted to do was kind of rebrand this whole thing.
Okay.
So by calling it plant-based, they've given it a new name, and it's not really going to have all those vegan associations with it. Those vegan associations that might be negative. Okay. But there is one other thing I should throw in here, which is, different people call themselves vegan, different people call themselves plant-based. From my understanding, I would say most plant-based folks are talking about a low-fat vegan approach to diet.
Okay.
Now, you can be a vegan and eat Doritos and Oreos, right, and tons of olive oil on a few vegetables. Mm-hmm. So you can be a vegan and eat a lot of unhealthy stuff. And yeah. I've eaten my share of unhealthy stuff over the years. But so I mean, you could be an unhealthy vegan and be doing great things for the environment and ethics, but destroying your health.
Right. So reason I asked that because I call myself more of a plant-based diet eater versus because I'm alarmed, like I mentioned before, the level of sodium they put in like veggie burgers and vegan burgers and whatever. It's alarming, and I think at this point it's a marketing tool. They're gonna put everything in a form, anything you can buy in a non-vegan dairy form or animal product form, they're gonna put it in a vegan form. Just because there's a market for it and they're going to sell it. So my philosophy, if it didn't come from this soil, I limit it. So my diet consists 90% of plant-based food throughout the day. The only thing that's not plant-based is the B12 vitamin, I guess. Like, I don't know I'm still trying to research where that's derived from. But, other than that, so I want to make that clear to people or whatever that, I mean, I'm not eating vegan chips. I'm not eating vegan crackers. I'm not eating vegan. I don't believe in that. I went straight from cutting out the animal products to being a plant-based. Went straight from cutting out the animal products. Now I'm going to eat a lot of vegan burgers and vegan this and that. I went straight because that movie, Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
And that was part of it, but I think they focused on plant-based in that movie.
Yeah. I think that's really smart, Jason, and you make a great point. And this is probably largely behind why these guys wanted to call it plant-based, because once you make the focus plant-based, then it becomes very hard to eat things that are processed, because along with all animal products, also most processed foods are not very healthy.
Right.
So unless they're minimally processed.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's really smart what you're doing. The one issue I have with this modern trend to rename veganism is these folks that have gone before us have done a lot of work in this area, and I think that needs to be recognized and appreciated.
Right.
These folks who were vegan when it really was not cool to be vegan. Right. They were vegan when doctors were calling them whacked out. They were vegan when people just ostracized them, So I think that's why I still think vegan's a good term. And but to me, I don't really care if someone goes vegan or plant-based for health reasons, if they do it for ethics or they do it for the environment. I don't really care. Just whatever gets them there is great, because for whatever reason they get there, once they're there, they're affecting all three of those things.
Right.
So that's my position. But I think you're right. I think it's going to shift into more plant-based.
Right. Okay.
But so very interesting. Let's see what else. What I usually also like to ask people is, if you had somebody come to you and they were considering taking up this lifestyle, and they had pretty much lived, standard American diet up until now, what would be some tips you'd give them as they transition?
You have to have a support system first. This is just general health. You need to go open up your cabinets, take everything out. Don't bring it in the house anymore. Just simple as that, because I am weak as anyone else. If you bring it in the house, sit it in front of me, there's a chance I may just, I want a snack, I'll grab it. So don't bring it in the house.
Yep.
And that goes back to the support system, because if you have a spouse that's bringing it into the house, sitting in front of your face, it makes it a little challenging. Unless you get to a level that I'm at now, which is, I don't care how many chocolate chip cookies are at work, sitting up on the counter during Christmas, cakes, pies, birthday celebrations around the office, or what my wife brings and sits on in chips and whatever she sits in here. I might grab one, but you won't see me sitting there eating chips or eating cookies or drinking milk or eating ice cream or just because it's in my face anymore. But because most people, it takes a long, long, long time to get to that level. Because I think it goes back to when they say the addiction to sugar and stuff, the cravings.
Yeah.
Something clicked in me one day where that cravings was, you know what it is? Maybe I even need the cravings. It's imagining, and I might be crazy for this, but when I eat anything, I imagine what it's doing in my body. I literally imagine it going into my bloodstream, trying to travel through my heart, trying to get to all the places it need to be. And if I just ate something really greasy and nasty, I'm immediately thinking about what I can do to help the process, help it clear out of me. So my wife, this one thing she knows about me, and this is a tip as well for someone that wants to be healthy. If you have a bad day, next day have a really good one to help keep your body moving. And when you talk about supplements, I used to be a cleanse person. I used to be a person that would purchase some cleanse boxes and go through a cleanse for a week or whatever, a weekend or whatever it took. But now I shifted maybe 2 years ago into my diet is an everyday cleanse. It's an everyday cleanse. It's not a one-time flush it out type of cleanse. It is a everyday cleanse. So if I go out into a restaurant and I eat bad because it's hard to eat good, even if you think you're eating good, you don't know what they're putting in and stuff.
Yeah.
I either come home, I drink things that help digestion, that help like ginger tea or natural fresh ginger tea that I squeeze and chop myself.
Nice.
And to help again, it's all about my heart really and my brain, and so just pushing it through, helping my blood flow the way it's supposed to. So if you have a bad day, have a good day the next day. That's the one thing. But if someone's trying to live a vegan or plant-based lifestyle, which I have, by the way, it spreads. It rubs off, because I know, just like we called you the other day to ask a question about something.
Yeah.
It happens to me all the time, constantly. And I have so many people that pull on me. Cousins that are younger than me, one that's 10 years younger than me. I have brothers, there's one younger, one older. I have a sister and my mom and everybody. We all, now it's feeding off of me, a lot of it. And they're like, hey, did you ever, or they're telling me stuff, or I'm telling them stuff.
That's awesome.
To help this thing grow and help them eliminate some of the products, animal products. But it's not tough. That's what I would tell people. It's don't make it a diet. Don't even call it that. Just change your lifestyle. Add some healthy things, remove some bad things. Don't think about the price so much, because guess what's the most expensive thing in the store? Animal products. So stop bringing those home and bring some kale and some collard greens home, which are cheaper than probably a gallon of milk now.
Jason, don't you love how much easier it is to clean in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that great?
Yeah, like there's no like grease anymore anywhere. There's no fried chicken grease. It's just clean eating. It's like very clean. All the way around.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad you brought up this last issue, because I wanted to ask you about this. I think you've kind of answered it, but let me ask you again. And we'll close with this, because I have a limit on how much I can do. But in terms of talking to other people about this,
mm-hmm.
so there's some folks on YouTube. There's some vegans who are kind of they're young, they're aggressive, kind of belligerent, almost militant about it.
Right.
And sometimes I wonder how useful that approach is in terms of spreading the message. And I wonder, what's your take on it? It sounds like, if your family members call you up, you share stuff with them, but I also feel like you're not the type who's going to be like beating them over the head with it. So what's your take on all that?
One of the phases that you go through is getting to where we are now, is at first, when you learn all this stuff, when I read that book, I'm walking around telling everybody, hey, you need to not eat that, you need to eat this, don't take drugs, don't, whatever. And then you get to a point where, wait a minute, am I bugging the heck out of these people? Am I bothering these people? So I got to a point 2, 3, 4 years ago that I wouldn't approach anybody about health until they approached me. I mean, I was a person that would pick up the soda. Hey, can I see your soda real quick? And I'd pick it up and I'd say, you realize that's 17 teaspoons of sugar in this one soda, right? I just want you to know that. And they would be like, hey, thanks for ruining my my lunch here. So I stopped that really quickly. But it was so exciting to me, like people just don't know this stuff. So I am in no way militant about it myself personally, And I think that's only going to push people away and think you're lunatic and crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
You just have to. Here's what I try to do. I try to lay little nuggets in people's mind, and then I get out. I lay the nugget. Like if it's people that didn't ask me, of course, I lay a little nugget, and I know for sure that a year from now, a month from now, whatever, they're gonna say, I remember Jason said that if all I would do was stop eating eggs, then I would have my cholesterol, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. Well, Jason, man, thank you so much, and I appreciate you having the patience to wait for me to connect with you tonight. And this is great. It's a great interview. I love the way your transition has happened, like just gradually. I love it. It's a great example. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I no problem. Anytime. I love talking about this stuff. As you probably know, when you get into conversations about health, it's like it's just like it's crazy. It's like how passionate, how much passion I have on my.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I totally can relate to that, and I feel you. Yeah. So listen, what I'm going to do is I will edit this and post it, and it's essentially your video. You can tell me to change anything or delete it at any time. So so thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right.